Yeah, good evening, everyone. Hope I'm audible to my screen here.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so where are we, guys? What are we discussing in the last class? We have seen the concepts of gradients. We have seen how do we implement the multicolor as a background, and we have seen both concepts of circular and linear gradients. And on the top, we have seen through the grid layout. That is what we have seen. And on the top, we have even seen the concept of media queries. How do we make a web page as a responsive? So those things we have seen, right? So hope everybody is so clear about the media queries or what are the topics we are discussing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, that's great. So one small piece, what I missed out is, remember like yesterday we are talking about how do we define the media queries for multiple devices or for different dimensions, how you're going to specify this. Okay, so the only one part what we can, I can add more is, now if you see here, right now we have a very, guys, if you're not talking, can you please go into mute? Okay, so the only thing what we're missing is right now in our single page, we have a simple message bar. We are working, we are adding some different media queries in order, the only three devices we have handled, the bigger device, the very smaller device and the print. That is what three containers we have handled. And the two, we are using a single class called as MSG bar. That's it. Now, if I put you a question, assume like you're actually creating a page like amazon.com or flipkart.com or something like that. So when you're creating such type of pages, you will be handling multiple containers, and multiple containers will be having different look and feel for the multiple devices. So how we are going to handle such things here? So in order to handle them, what we need to do, under the single, say for example, for 350 pixel, you might have some 100 CSS classes. Under the tablet, you might have some 100 classes. Under the desktop, under the projector, under the TV, under the laptop, like hell lot of devices are there, hell lot of CSS classes. We need to define them. Fine, boss. But one more thing, what you have is, in a single page, defining the different media queries at the same time. Say, for example, I have multiple teams. Now I say that one team, you're responsible for handling all the look and feel changes within the mobile. I have a different team who handle the laptops or who handle the projectors. I have some different teams who dedicatedly work for individual device. Now, if they really want to work individually, I can't put all the CSS like this, right? Then how I'm going to define them? So the best way of other way of defining these guys is we can make use of the link tag also. Okay. Till now, let me say, okay, assume this is what the link tag I have. Okay, this is how we used to specify the link tag, isn't it? Using which you could able to specify the external CSS file. Now assume I have something called as app mobile.css. Define one CSS file, put your any name. Now what you do is, under the app mobile, instead of defining @media, etc. and all, you define the normal CSS. Now you define the media within this. Now what I say is max -width equal to, say, something called as 350 pixel. Okay. In the same way, you want to define for another guy where you need to say that something called as 700 pixel for tablet. Now I say something called app, say some tab.css, something like this. So now the advantage what you have is you define multiple CSS external files and link the external files to the link tag using the href attribute. And under the media, now you specify what conditions need to be there. Now the browser's responsibility to include the corresponding CSS for the corresponding device dimensions what you have given. So with this, we get rid of @media, but we can even specify the media by just using the link tag. So the advantage, what you see off here is multiple people, a team one working on some mobile.css, they will work on the separate file. These guys working on the same different file. Like this, you can create different files, easy to development, easy to maintain also. Okay, so this is another way of linking the media queries to using the link tag. So any questions here, guys? Clear, everyone?
Yes, sir. Clear.
Great.
Sir, where we have to declare this link tag? Sir, we have to take another page or inside this main page only we can
Inside
declare.
the main page, Pravalika. So here, now I'm going to define something like this. We always use the link tag within the index.html, right?
Yes, sir.
The same thing.
Okay, sir. Okay,
Okay.
sir. Yes, sir.
So this is about the media queries, guys. Again, when I'm developing the media query, I just took only a simple message bar. Now, my expectation is I want you to write some simple. I was about to solve that, but what I'm thinking is let me give some assignment for you. You try that. If it is not coming, then I will take care of it. Assume this is one of the device look and feel what I have. Under this device, I would like to, guys, if you're not talking, please go into mute. Okay, assume these are the tab type of structure what I wanted. Tab 1, tab 2. Assume this is how I have, guys. I want to have some tab structure like this. Once we click on this home button, I would like to see a simple information regarding the home. Okay, say some information like about the company, some information you can add it. Okay, now on the top, what I wanted is if you say something called careers, I need to show some information regarding the careers, like I mean, these are the openings we have, these are the closings, whatever you want, you can display it here. On the top, when the user clicks on the address, you can show some what are the address of the company. On click of history, so and so. On click of about us, only about. Implies when I'm clicking on home, whatever the information being shown has to be replaced with careers information. Address, when I click on address, remaining all has to be gone. Only address has to be shown. This is like a tab type of structure. Can you guys do that?
Yeah, sir.
Okay, sir.
Okay, nice. You can use the jQuery concept here. Now, in order to implement the responsiveness, when you minimize these guys into a smaller window, this is what I wanted. Assume this is like a mobile for you. Okay. On the mobile, when these guys become smaller, I want to create a small menu icon like this. You can actually find out the menu icon from outside. Menu icon mobile. So like this. Okay. When I minimize this window, this type of menu has to be done. Once you click on this menu, a simple box has to be opened, something like this, with all the same type of information. This is the home button again. Careers. About us, something like this, guys. So when you minimize these guys, nothing should be shown. Menu button has to be shown. Once you click on that menu button, you should be able to see the list of items. So any questions on this, guys? Can you guys do this? So there is a tab type of working, at the same time responsiveness also. Can you guys try this?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yeah. So let me save this, guys. What is the assignment count, guys? It's been a long time now. What is the assignment count?
35.
35?
Yeah.
35 or 36? Okay, I'll go with the bigger number, 36. Okay. So this is how it is, guys. So this is the assignment. Now coming back to our regular topic. So what is the topic which we are still pending with, guys? Let me go with the notes once. Guys, if you're not talking, please go into mute. Where is this? Notes version 1 front end. Okay, so under your CSS3 multiple background images, we have already shown box, shadow effect, transition, transformations, translate properties, scales, cueness, keyframes. These all things are done. Linear gradient is done. Radial gradient is done. Media queries is just done. On the top, we are still left over with flexible layouts. Okay, so that is what the thing pending, right? On the top, what all we have? Flex grow. Okay, these all are under the flex itself. Display grid, we already done with that. That's it. After this, we are going to start with your responses. Great. Okay, so this is what the concept, guys. We are still left over with the display flex concept. Nagarjuna is having a question. Till now, how much percentage of syllabus completed? Till now, percentage in the sense I cannot give you the exact value, but I can tell you the pending topics what we have. Node.js server side is completely pending. Node, Express, and MongoDB. From the UI side, only Bootstrap is pending, and ECMAScript. You can put on the percentage. Okay, so when I go to this guy, okay, let us go with the flexible containers. Okay, till now, anytime we are creating multiple containers, okay, till now, what are the different layouts what we have seen? We have seen something called as block type of layouts, isn't it? We have seen like, how do you create a block type of layouts? How do you create a inline type of elements or inline type of layouts? We have seen how do we represent the data in the form of two-dimensional, like a table type of structure. And we have seen how do we position the elements, isn't it? So these are the type of layouts till now we have seen. So the next and very important layout called as flex layout. So what do you mean by this flex layout? So till now when I say display, earlier we have seen something called as display inline, display block, display inline hyphen block, display none. These properties we have seen. Later, from your CSS3, we have seen something called as grid, and now we have something called as flex containers. So using your display property itself. So what is the main use of this flex containers? It's very simple. If you have group of items, you want to create them as a flexible containers. So how do you represent them within the page? So that is what your main intention of going to the flex layouts. Okay. And under the flex layouts, you have two major subjects or two major concepts we have. One is the flex container properties, and there is something called as flex item properties. Okay, whenever you're going to work with a display flex containers or display flex property, so let us see, how do you make a container or how do you make a item? Let's have a look on that. Let me create a very simple example. And I mean, having a lot of CSS properties, so that's where you feel tricky. But if you really practice, it will be simple. Display flex containers.html. Okay, let me say I'm having a div, say some class equal to say some container. For this, I say dot container, say some background color, light blue. Under this, I have div. Say some class equal to item 1. Okay, let me make it as 2. Make it as 3. Okay, I make this guy as dot item. Say some background color hash ccc. Okay, let me put some padding of 20 pixel, margin of 10 pixel. Okay, save this guy. I have a container and I have some multiple items. Now, if you render this guy, open within the default browser. So how it is getting rendered? This is to make it more clear. Let me make this guy as ill. Okay, save this guy, come back and reload the page. This is how I have the containers, guys. I have a very simple container. Under that, I have 3 items. As those are div guys, this is how it is getting rendered. Now you see the magic of this. I don't do anything to this guy. First of all, as I said you, I want to make this div, this container as a flexible container. Later, we'll see how do you work with the items. But for now, I want to work with the flexible containers. First of all, let us see what properties we can actually apply for the containers. Then we get expertise onto the items. So in order to make any of the container as a flexible container, you simply need to specify something called display flex. That's it. Any container having the CSS property as display flex will automatically become the flexible container. Now, if you come back and reload the page, by default, all the items within the container will become the flexible items. The very first and foremost property, anytime you make any of the container as a flexible container, the children's inside this will automatically become a flexible items. And by default, the direction of the flexible items is row wise. That is the reason all the items, if you see, those are actually the block level elements. but they are occupying within the row format. Why so? By default, all the flexible items will come and render as like a row wise. Now, if you want to change the direction of the flexible container, have ours. Now, when I say row here, if you come back and reload the page, no difference. Is it for everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So direction property. Now use is coming in the same way because by default it's row. All the okay, this is row reverse. So the possible values what we have is, or else let me take it as a separate point. Now the very under this flexible containers, the very first property what we have seen is display flex. Under this, there is something called as flex hyphen direction. Under this flex hyphen direction, it can be a row, it can be a row, or it can be a column. It can be a column hyphen reverse. Okay, these are the possible values it takes. Now let us see how do you give this. Now when I say flex row reverse, it is coming on the right side. Now what if I say column? I want to make it as a column wise. Save this guy, come back here and reload the page. This is how it is coming. So it is coming in the form of a column. Now if you want to mention it in the form of column hyphen reverse. Now if you come back and reload the page, this is how you see it is coming 3, 2, 1. The sorting is automatically happening. Okay. If you clearly see this, guys, whatever the assignment I have given, almost like the same. The only thing is you just need to change this value based on what device user is using. Now, if I say something called as row wise, is it not automatically looking as like a tab type of structure?
Yes.
Yes. Now, when I make it as a column wise, is it not becoming like that menu type of structure? Yes. This is a simple hint, guys. It's up to you, whatever the way you want it. Okay. So flex hyphen direction is the CSS property through which you can actually change the direction of the elements. Okay. Any questions up to this? Anyone? Two properties we have seen, display property and the flex direction property. Any questions up to this?
No, sir. Yes, sir.
Clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Now, the another thing what actually we have is flex wrap hyphen property. Okay, let me comment out these guy. There is something called as flex hyphen wrap property. So these are the possible values you can see. No wrap, 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 reverse. Okay. Now, what are those? Before this, let me create simple example on this. Let me go for these items. Let me give some width of say some 100 pixel. Say some height of some 100 pixel. Yeah, that's it. And let me take some more elements here, guys, so that we can see exactly how this wrapping is happening. Say 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12. Okay. Assume this is how it is. Now, if you come back here and reload the page, this is how it is coming. Now I say 100 pixel. Now, if I say that width is going to be 120 pixel. Now, if you come back and reload the page, do you see any difference in the width? No. Why so? The reason is by default, there is something called as wrap property getting applied to this so that it is getting adjusted automatically within the same window. And another thing is, see this. This is what the responsive has been handled. Doesn't matter how much width of the container you have, they only fall under the within the same line here. Okay, they never ever come into the multiple lines. And if the device width is not enough, it is automatically getting shrink here. The width what we are given, it is not considering, it is shrinking. You give only 2-3 items, yes, automatically whatever the width. So for example, I'm removing these guys. Now if you come back and reload the page, now if you see, this is how the 150 pixel width, it is coming super fine. But when the width is not enough for the container, that is where it is going to automatically shrink the content, because the flex wrap property by default, the flex wrap property is going to have flex-wrap is going to be wrap property. So if you reload this, sorry, flex wrap is no wrap by default. There is something called as no wrap property. Now, if you reload this guy, so this is how by default it is. But if you say something called as wrap boss, so what do you mean? That try to make it in a new line. Don't try to shrink it. Try to make it as a new line here. If you reload the page, this is how it comes. Okay, so this is what your flex-wrap property, using which you can wrap the container or unwrap the content, or you have something called wrap-reverse format. Reload the page. This is how it is. Okay, just with a single property, you could able to change the directions and way of rendering of the contents. Am I clear? Flex wrap property.
Yes.
There is a flex-wrap property. Under this, oh my God, we have the possible options. One is no wrap, which is the default one. There is a wrap property and wrap reverse property. Okay, there is another CS property again for the containers. If you see here, we are only talking about the containers, guys. We are not talking about the items. We'll come later. First, we finish the parent container properties. Now, under this, there is something called as flex-flow property. Okay, so what do you mean by this flex-flow property? Under this flex flow property, it is just a combination of both direction. Okay, what do you mean by flex flow property? It is the combination, the shortcut format of defining both the direction and the flex wrap. For example, here I'm specifying the direction as row and I want to specify the flex wrap as reverse. Now, what you can do, instead of defining these two words, you say something called as flex-flow. Under this, you say, I want a row format. Then I want a wrap-reverse format. Now, if you come back here, reload the page, it is going to be the same. Am I clear? Flex flow property. So 3 things we have seen within the containers, guys. Flex direction, flex wrap, and flex flow is combination of these 2. Am I clear?
Yeah. Sir.
Yes. Next, let me create a separate example. More properties are there. To not to confuse, let me create a separate example on this. Flex container underscore path 2. Okay. Under this, I don't want to go with these many properties. Let me go with 3 of them. I go for this, dynamite, etc. and all. Okay, now if you save this guy, I don't want to go with these properties for now. Let me comment out this. Okay. The next CSS property, what we have is justify content. Okay. Justify content. The possible values are, you can justify the content to the center, the end, the first baseline, flex, right, last, left, right, etc. All these things can be given here. So what do you mean by this justify content? Let me say the justify content is at center. Now, if you come back, reload this page, open in the default browser. By default, justify content makes the element horizontally center of the container, of the Flex container. Okay, justify content, make the content, the items to be center of the Flex container. Okay. The other, okay, by default, those will be falling under this. Even though if you don't specify it, it is going to be on the left side. You want to make it to the right side. This is how it is going to be. Like this, there are other possible values you can give. Which is something complete right, when it to say some 300 pixel. Okay, not much different. Automatically adjusting the width of the container so that they all fall under the single line. But when I say wrap, they will fall under the new line. So position is not getting reflected through the position flex wrap, right? That is completely different.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Next, this is your justify content. Another thing what we have is align items. Okay. Let me comment out this guy. There is something called as align items center. Okay, align items almost take the same properties as like justify. Now, if you refresh your page, what is happening? Is it is aligning horizontally or vertically, guys? Aligning horizontally or vertically?
Horizontally.
Come on.
Vertical.
Vertically, guys. When I say justify content, it is working horizontally. When I say align hyphen items, it works vertically. Okay. Now, a very good solution for your, very common interview question, making container to center.html. My requirement is I want to make an element to the center of a container. Till now, what we used to do, using your margin property, only horizontal we have. Let us say, for example, I have only one item. My requirement is I want to make this item to the center of the container. Open this guy, open in the default browser. This is how it is. I want to make this guy to the center of the container. The blue is my container. Let me see the height of say some 500 pixel. Reload the page. This is how it is. How do I make this green box to the center of the page, center of the container? Very simple. First of all, it has to be a display flex flex container. Under that, you say something called as justify content to the center. Save this guy, reload the page. Is it horizontally center or vertically center? Horizontally center. If at all I want to make it vertically also to the center, how do I go for that?
Align items.
Align item center. Now, if you come back and reload the page, the most required concept in most of the web pages, how do you make an element to the center of the page? irrelevant. Earlier, we used to go with the positions, we used to go with some margins, etc., stuff. Now, irrelevant of those all, any window, any size, whatever you go, by default, you can make any element to render to the center of the page by using the flexible containers. On the top, you're going to make use of the justify content and align items property. Am I clear here?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So these are some of the properties what you have, guys. I mean, through which you can actually work with the flexible container here. Okay. Till now, we are only working on the container. What if I would like to work on flexible items? Okay. So these are all the properties what we have seen. These all come, where is that? Yeah, whatever the properties we have seen under this, these are all coming for the flexible containers. Now, when I go with items, implies the child item, any item which is part of the flexible container will automatically become as a flex item. Okay, any item which is a children of a flex container automatically becomes a flex item. Now, how do you control the how do you what are the other properties what we have so that we can control the child items or the flex items? Okay, let's have a look on that. The very first property what actually we have is order. Okay, we can specify the order of an item by using a CSS property, something called as order equal to, say, something called as 3, order equal to something called as 1. We have something called as order equal to something called as 2. Now, if you come back and reload the page, do you see the order changing? No, right? Why so? Okay, let me forget all this. Okay, save this guy. Open in the browser. 1, 2, 3. Why so 1, 2, 3? I changed the order, right? Display flex. And I specified this order. What else?
So in item use flex.
Sorry,
In item display flex use.
why we have to make item as a flex? We have to make only the container as a flex, right? We never use the flex property for a item. Any that is
Sir,
what
we
I
didn't change content, sir.
content. That is what I actually wanted. By default, it is 1, 2, 3 order. But once you specify this order 3, right, it will automatically change its order by default. That is the default. That is why we actually go with this order property. But why this guy is not getting rendered here? Am I missing anything? Nothing actually. Flex containers. Okay, let's have a look on this. CSS3 display flex order. Order item order. Ordering flex items. Okay, source item order to order property, right? Now, if you see here, this is what we wanted. See, order, when I say to, it has to get added. Oh my God. The simple thing what I'm missing is order is not an attribute. It is a CSS property. So it has to be CSS order colon 3, something like this. I missed this, man. Okay, now I take out this guy and I specify this guy like this. It's a CSS property, guys. Okay, assume this guy we want to show it in 1, this guy we want to show it as 2. Now, if you come back and reload your page, do you see the order is getting changed? So
Yes.
without changing the DOM positions, you could able to change the look and feel. Now, if you see the source code of this guy, the source code shows 1, 2, 3, 4 only. But when the user is actually visiting the web page, you see the order of the position which is changing here. So the advantage, say for example, there is a practical example, guys. Assume there are okay. Say for example, there is a cricket match which is going on. We know that there are 11 players who will be playing on a match. Say for example, initially they said that okay, these are the list of people who are coming to play. The batsman 1, batsman 2, batsman 3, etc. and all. But you know that based on the current situation of the game, the order of the batsman changes. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Right. Now, if the order of the batsman, say for example, player B has to come on the second position, but player 5 is coming into his position. Something they had the strategy got changed and they are putting the other batsman into the game. Now, in this case, what I have to do actually? So, I mean, what is the problem we have here? If at all I need to change, I need to take the DOM element, again put on the top. Now you need to reload the page. Instead of this, dynamically, if you could able to change the position of the element, here we are just changing the CSS property. So dynamically you change the CSS property of the order, the way it actually render will automatically change. So that is one of the real-time example where we can simply use this order property in order to control the rendering order of flexible items within a flexible container. Am I clear here?
Yes.
Okay, next. The other CSS property what we have is there is something called as flex-grow property. By default, the flex grow property will be 0. So what do you mean by this flexible grow property? The flexible grow property will tell you how much I need to increase my dimension relevant to other elements. Now, when I give the flex size 0 here, do you see nothing change here? Let me open this guy. Let me close all the tabs, guys. Close other tabs. Open in the default browser. This is how it is. Okay. By default, every flex item grow will be 0. Now, when I say something called as flex grow 2, now if you come back and reload the page here. So what do you mean by this 2 here? Now, if you see whatever the position, whatever the other elements are having, they are 0 and 0. If the position of them is 0 is this much, obviously multiple of twice of the existing will automatically become the width of this guy. Okay. I say something called as this guy is 0 and this is 1. This is 1 time and this is 3 times. Now, if you save this guy and reload this page, see here, the first guy is actually 1 time. I mean, 0 time as it is with what he's having. Now, when I say second guy, which is twice, third guy, which is thrice of the existing one. So that is how, I mean, the second guy, if you multiply it with 3 times, that is what the width it is coming. So flex-grow is a CSS property through which you can work on the width of the items within the flexible containers. That too, the width will be relative to the other child elements. Based on the other child elements, it is going to be decreased. Now, when the advantage what you have is, now when I'm minimizing this guy, it automatically gets minimized. Remember, like these type of look and feel, yesterday I was talking about the grid system. Under the grid system, if you want some left right containers to be done, so even with flexible items also you can do that. But if it is grid, you can directly apply it to that, because under the grid we don't have anything called as grid items. We don't need to control the CSS properties for the child. Okay, but in case of your flex items, you have an option of having the controlling the parent and controlling the flex items and all. Okay, So this is how it actually increases when grows or shrinks based on the value what you're going to give. Any questions on this flex-grow property? Okay, next. There is another property which is just a reverse of this, which is something called as flex-shrink. Okay, flex-grow is you grow dependent, relevant to the other elements. Now, let me go with a separate example again. Let me close these guys, save this guy, control A, control and control V, save this guy. Display flex container, sorry, display flex items, I'll say. Flex items.html. Okay. So let me remove these properties. Okay. Save this guy. Open in the default browser. This is how it is. Okay. And let me add multiple items here. Open in the browser. This is how it is. And let us say the width is going to be 150 pixel. Save this guy. Still, it doesn't grow. We already know that. Why so? Items will be no wrap by default. They try to shrink automatically based on, even though we don't have as we don't have the enough width here, we automatically get shrink, isn't it? Now, what if I have one of the item, assume like these guys, some 33. This is the item what I have. My requirement is I don't want this guy to get shrinked. You have to be as it is. Whatever the value you have to be as it is. So how do I specify that? That is where you have the CSS property style equal to flex hyphen shrink. Now I say 0. So what do you mean by this flex hyphen shrink colon 0? Now if you come back and reload the page, now if you see the 33 guy, is it is automatically getting shrink? No. Flex grow is the property through which you are going to specify how much you need to grow relative to the other element. Flex shrink is the CSS property through which you are going to specify that you should not shrink when, even though the other elements are getting shrinked as we don't have the enough width. But the flex shrink is not going to work when you actually put it as no wrap. Why the reason? Because when it is no wrap, you know that every element will automatically get adjusted. They do even come into the new line. Only when the items are trying to render on the same line and you don't want to make the element to not to get shrink, then we go with the flex hyphen shrink property. Am I clear? Okay,
Yes, sir.
next. The other property what actually we have is flex hyphen basis. Flex hyphen basis. It's very simple. You need to specify the default width. Oh my, why I'm missing every time. It has to be inline property. Sorry, it has to be CSS property. Now, if you come back and reload the page, okay, by default, it doesn't come because I have multiple items here. Now, when I remove these guys, save this guy, come back and reload the page. This is how it is. If you see the 34 guy is having the width, flex hyphen basis is a CSS property through which you can actually specify what is the width of a flex item which has to get rendered on load of the page. Okay, on load of the page, what is my width here? But now when I'm minimizing these guy, the 34 is getting shrinked. See here, is it not getting shrinked here? Yes. But what do you mean by this 200 here? On load of the page, what is my width you need to go for? On the top, when you minimize and maximize, I will automatically get adjusted accordingly. But on load, what I have to get, that is what your flex basis property. Now on the top, there is another shortcut we have here. The shortcut what we have is flex property. What is this flex? Simply the combination of flex hyphen grow property space the combination of flex hyphen shrink property space the combination of flex hyphen base property. For example, I have something called flex colon. What is the grow? I say you have to grow twice. The flex string is 0. You should never ever come to the stringing. Flex basis is 200 pixels. So this is just a shortcut. Flex property. Am I clear? Understood everything? Actually,
Yes.
we have individually
Yes, sir.
seen what do you mean by this grow, shrink, and basis. But now flex is the property through which at a time we can actually go with this guy. So these are some of the CSS properties through which you can actually work with the flexible containers and flexible items within a single page. Any questions up to this, guys? So very, very, very important, guys. One thing I'm really telling with my personal experience, if you are really strong on flexible items, display flex property and the display grid system, you can create any responsive pages without depending on the third-party APIs. You know, a lot of people say that, boss, implement the responsiveness. They say that, boss, can I make use of the Bootstrap? Can I make use of the Angular material, etc.? But if I say that without using any third-party APIs, try to implement the responsiveness. Now, if you see here, without writing any of the media queries and all, aren't we controlling these guys? Yes. So that is what we wanted, right? The reason why we go with the third-party APIs is to implement the responsiveness. If by default itself, the container itself is automatically getting handled by responsive, so most of the job is done by the developer. Implies the layout is done. Under that content, what need to be shown, what need to be hidden, that is what we need to work as a developer. So this is the advantage we have if you're really strong on this. Okay, so do some enough practice on these two guys, especially on the grid and the flex containers. So get strong on this. Okay, so any questions up to them?
Sir, what is the main difference between flex grow and flex basis, sir?
Flex grow is the property. Okay, let me tell you a practical example. Okay.
Okay, sir.
What should I say? Flex grow. Okay. I say that, say for example, there is a person A and person B are there. Person A is eating some food. I said the person B, boss, you always have to eat twice of person A. Okay? Simple. There are person A and person B. Let me write it out. There is person A. First of all, you want the difference between the flex hyphen grow and flex hyphen basis.
Yes, sir.
Now, my question is, there is a person A and there is person B. I said the B, you should be always eating twice food of A, I said. I simply said A. Now, A is eating 3 kgs. Can you tell me how much B should eat it?
6
6 kgs.
Pravalika, you asked
Yes.
this question. Right?
Yes.
6 kgs. Okay. Then how you are specifying here? I simply said that B, you should be always eating twice a food. Now, instead of this, instead of writing this much of statement, can I say that flex hyphen grow each 2? Can I do this? Now you understood what I mean by flex grow?
Yes, sir.
Relevant to the others. Now, if you say that, what if A is not eating anything? B also it doesn't eat anything because You are always relevant to the other element. Based on other element, how much you are increasing yourself.
Okay, sir.
Next thing, I say that on load of the page, yeah, you should be 100 pixel. Doesn't matter, like when it is wrapping, is it not automatically shrinking? Yes. Now I say that, boss, at least on load of the page, when the user is looking into the page, I want you to see 100 pixel. I want B to see something called as some 350 pixel. On load of the page, I want you guys to see 100 and 350. Later, when the user minimizes or maximizes, automatically you get adjusted to the width. How do I do that? Here, can I say that flex hyphen basis is equal to 350 pixel? Yes. So flex hyphen basis is on load. When I'm rendering on the page, what is my default width? On the top, when you minimize and maximize, they automatically get adjusted according to the dimensions. Did I answer your question, Pravalika?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so in between, I have a question from Jyoti. Ma'am, you would have kept it as a public message. Anyway, to read it out, what is her question is, how many classes should we take to complete backend, sir? Jyoti, from the very starting, you would have seen my number of classes were never ever a constant uh, count here. Okay, I never say, at least I myself never restricted myself saying that, okay, in 15 classes, I need to finish the UI, or in 10 classes, I need to finish the HTML5. Like for CSS3, I never taken this much of classes. For CSS3, mostly like in 2 classes or maximum both HTML5 and CSS3, I used to finish in just 4 classes maximum. But for your class, it is extending? Yes, it is. Isn't it? Like we took around 1 week of class, guys, both HTML5 and CSS3.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
right.
sir.
So it's all based on the questions or based on the examples. Like in our class, I have shown one of the examples for password. Remember, for local storage and session storage, when the user clicks on the remember ID and password, once you load the page, we used to get the ID and password. Once you uncheck that guy, we used to get it. That is the very first time I have shown the example only for you guys. I'm not saying that I don't have specific things that, okay, I need to only cover in this way. So it's all depends upon how many examples I go. You were putting some questions. So I thought like, okay, I'll put more examples. So that is how it goes. But to just give you a very rough idea, I think minimum 15 to 20 classes I will take, because when I say backend, we need to cover Node.js, we need to cover the MongoDB, and we need to cover the Express framework. And other main challenging part what we will be having is, as we are not only the backend developer, if it is only backend, I may take only 10 classes, backend more than will be enough. But our thing is, we are full stack developers. We need to merge the both UI and the backend. Like in the UI, user will be putting a request, it will be going to the server, how the server is taking them, how the server is putting in the DB. Again, from the DB, how do you read it out? How do you put it on the UI? So those all things are there. So which minimally need that much of time, Jyoti. So hope did I answer your question. Do you guys feeling bored, guys? I know that I'm dragging your batch too much, right? I'm lucky that
No,
you
sir, no.
never complaining on that. Thanks for that. But yeah, a lot of breaks from my side and holidays, etc. things. But I will try my level best, guys. I'll try my level best to make it to not to extend more. Okay. Okay, Nagarjuna, real-time project. People are already started, Nagarjuna. You people are all, I already gave you the project, right? Some people, I think in the Saturday, one of you from your team, I spent around 15 to 20 minutes of time to finish the project, what the layouts, what they have created, etc. and all. So project is, you already have the mockups, you need to do that. But yes, when I actually start this UI and the backend, I also do one of the project before you, because when it comes to the backend UI and database, instead of taking as a topic wise, I create a simple real-time project within that project itself, I will actually show you all the concepts. Okay, take an example of a online shopping application. When I want to log in, I give ID and password. How I will take that ID password to the web service? How that web service will be taken to the database? How the database validates and respond back? So those type of real-time topics I will be covering with the projects what I actually go with. Okay. Next, Prashant is having a question. Sir, does the flex takes any value it will take, Prashant? It just simply multiplies the value with the other things. That's it. Next, Varaprasad is having a question. Sir, can we give grid to basis? You're talking about our display grid system you're talking about, Varaprasad? Display grid, does it takes the basis or not?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Actually, no, Varaprasad. Okay, in fact, like when you go with the display grid system, remember yesterday we are talking about the templating system under the grid. Where is that guy? Let me open that example. Grid layout. When you see here, when you're giving this template columns, can I say this auto? And if I make it as something called a 300 pixel, is it possible or not, guys? Yes or no?
Possible.
It is possible, right? Now, can I say that this 300 pixel is the basis here?
Yes, sir.
That so we are not giving the same property. Obviously, these properties, whatever we have learned, flex, grow, shrink, etc., these might be only suitable. I mean, those are the dedicated CSS properties which are only for the flexible containers. We might not be having the same properties, but if you really want to have them, they are with a different way you can actually apply them. Anyway, answer your question, Prasad.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Nagarjuna, sir, are you going to teach React.js? Not as of now, Nagarjuna. Nothing planned as of now. Okay. And one more thing, guys, just want to confirm, have you guys, any one of you joined for the Angular or React batches? I mean, either you joined or doing the self, whatever it is. Have you guys started it?
No, sir.
No one?
No, sir.
No, sir.
I remember, like I already said that as you guys are already done with advanced JavaScript, I think this is the time you can start and you can, what do you say? You have to get experience with the framework now. Okay. Take some time, guys. Either you do it yourself or you join somewhere, whatever it is. But this is the time you actually should have started the Angular or React. It's up to you. Okay. As I already said, you remember in the demo classes itself, by finishing all these classes, you will be 80%, you will be a full stack developer. But if you want to finish the remaining 20, in fact, outside world, I mean, when you go into the market, they're actually asking for the frameworks. So think of, guys. Okay, take a decision. Okay, fine, guys. I'll do one thing. I'll pause it over here. I'll start again tomorrow. Tomorrow, with a very fresh note, we are going to start with the next concept, which we call it as Bootstrap. Okay. So tomorrow, let us see. These are the concepts what we have seen. How do we implement the responsiveness using the media queries? How the Bootstrap, a third-party API, it is not the default feature. It is a third-party API. Some different team have developed that, and it has become so popular. Every other project is going to make use of the Bootstrap. So what is the use of the Bootstrap? What are the predefined components it is providing, etc. stuff we'll be discussing in the tomorrow's class. Okay. So let's sign off for today. Have a good night, everyone, and bye for today, guys.
Hello, sir.
Good night, sir.
Yeah. Good night, all. Someone saying hello. Who is that?
Yes, sir. I am.
Yes,
having
Shakil, tell
issue
me.
with